Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Last month I participated in the 48 and 48 challenge, and today I'd like to wrap up the scenic base that I built for that challenge. If you recall, what I decided to build was a 1/48 scale Messerschmitt Bf109E series from Tamiya, but I painted it in Swiss Air Service colors. I'll have a second video up shortly with the final painting of that model and the finishing details. I had also decided to make the display base look like a frozen pond being used as a temporary airfield. I used this historical photo as my inspiration for the build. In one of my preparation videos before I started the challenge, I explained how I used hardware store dark blue spray paint to cover the wooden plaque to give the illusion of a body of water with some depth to it. And then I built up a dam using adhesive-backed foam and poured on a clear layer of Woodland Scenics Realistic Water. Now, I did stick the foam-backed adhesive to my shirt several times to reduce the permanency of the bond, but we'll see how that works out later in the video. This first pour needs several hours to cure. I left mine sit overnight, something like 12 to 15 hours before I came back to it. The longer the better. 24 hours would be perfect. So after this layer is done, I did have a leak on one side, so I had to fix that and added another layer of the permanently bonding tape to raise up the level. The next thing we need to do is work on the top layer, which I like to call the frosted layer. And this is what takes it from just a layer of water and transforms it into a frozen body of water. And what we need to do is just add several drops of a basic white paint into the resin. After the paint is in, you just need to give it a short stir. And don't be vigorous with the stirring. We don't want a bunch of air bubbles, but we do want to get the paint kind of broken up and starting to move the pigments around. If there are chunks of paint like you see here, it's okay because we'll get them to disperse and separate throughout the resin when we do the pour. And with the white paint incorporated into the resin, we just pour it on. The magic happens when we start to push and pull the resin around the water. And so I start by using a tongue depressor just to kind of push it in place and move the paint particles around and start breaking up those chunks we talked about. And then I go and get a barbecue skewer and I pull that through the mixture to try and create some striation lines and to start popping any big bubbles you can see on the surface. This time I did give it a full overnight dry and a full 24 hours. This is where I would change things if I had to do this over again. I would not use the foam adhesive as a dam. It didn't remove well. Firstly, we had some of the resin that stuck into the foam, which was easily rectified by just pinching the foam off. And secondly, a bigger problem is that in spots, the bond was permanent and did stick to the wood. And so I had to come back with a knife and a rasp to try and get the foam bits off. And that caused some damage to the base, removed some paint. It was just a nightmare. It was not as easy as I thought it was going to be. Now, what I would do for any future builds, I would take the acrylic medium gel, which is the next step, and just use that like I did for the foam adhesive and ring the plaque. Again, that would require an extra day of curing, but it would also start the process of building up snow embankments. For now, I used the gel to help with the ragged edges and some of the damage I talked about. And I also built up a few small snowbanks that kind of crept into the scene a little bit. And then I came back in with some Woodland Scenic snow. And I put on a really good thick layer on top of the gel. And I also sprinkled some little bits around the center parts where there wasn't any gel. Kind of like the snow had been plowed back to make a runway or a landing spot. And then some wind came along and blew some of the flakes back onto the plowed area. So after that overnight cure, I came back with a 50-50 mix of PVA and water. I pretty much had my diorama base ready to go, ready for our scale airplane. So join me next time when we finish the entire scene. I've got one more build video of some accessories and some ground cruisemen, and we'll do that, and then we'll place the scene, and it'll be done. And until then, happy modeling.